Episode 655. A single diagonal sky strike carved through 3 men at once, all caught within the reach of this minor skill. The rightmost player had no time to react, and was lifted into the air by Sky Strike. The two beside him quickly backstepped to dodge, but the Sky Strike had already been cut short after launching that one man. Then came the falling flower palm. One palm strike sent the airborne player flying. Ninja art, 100 streams / Several streams of water shot out from the alley like snakes, and before that player could even land, the water rose up in unison, forming a watery prison that trapped him inside. Deception's gray figure burst forth, hurling 3 shuriken in a single motion. The 2 players tried to dodge, but Lord Grimm disrupted their footing, his battle lance tapping each of them once to throw off their positioning. Then came 2 dull thuds. 1 shuriken hit each target. Ninja art, flame slash. Ninja art, void twin strike. Ninja art, shadow dance. After the shuriken inflicted a brief stun, Deception seized the moment and unleashed 3 skills in rapid succession, each one executed with blinding speed. The flames of the flame slash had yet to die out when the 2 hand blades of the dust twin kill struck the pair, and then, riding the momentum of that strike, the hand seals for the shadow dance had already begun. Then, the gray figure that filled the sky launched a relentless assault, all of it focused on those 2 players. They couldn't defend at all. The unending strikes even lifted their feet off the ground. They were literally beaten into a launched state. And this was only Deception's side of the assault. Yishu's Lord Grimm was supporting from the flank, calmly weaving in his own attacks amidst Deception's relentless onslaught, perfectly syncing with his rhythm. Deception clearly didn't think much of these 2 opponents, but he was intent on competing with Lord Grimm. Seeing Lord Grimm smoothly matching his attacks and constantly shifting the rhythm, he seemed almost determined to trip him up. In the midst of all this chaos, a smiley face floated up from Lord Grimm's head. He'd clearly caught on that Deception was trying to compete with him. But no matter how chaotic the rhythm, Lord Grimm kept up with it effortlessly, his attacks always steady and methodical. Trapped inside the water prison of 100 streams / the players couldn't escape and could only send out messages non-stop. The countless shadow dancers before him sent a chill straight through his heart. Under this relentless assault, the 2 partners were completely outmatched. Amidst the dizzying flurry of figures, Lord Grimm's presence stood out with striking clarity, every move, every skill executed with textbook precision. The shadow dance ended, the countless afterimages coalescing back into a single form. But Deception wasn't retreating. He had no intention of pulling away. His final landing was directly above the 2 players' heads, just as it had been with Jin Sheng. Then he dropped down in a swift descent, his assault far from over. He was simply too strong. The 2 players being attacked were utterly miserable. As members of a major guild, they had never been beaten down like this. In the arena, this would have been a glorious, complete victory. After the sparrow drop, Deception followed up with backhand binding. His smooth, rapid combo left the 2 players no chance to react. From start to finish, they never even got to reveal their classes because they never had a single opportunity to launch an attack. It was only at this point, after the backhand neck bind, that a single target skill was finally used. One player finally got a moment to breathe, but after the sparrow drop, he had already been stomped to the ground. Now he scrambled to get back up, only to find himself halfway risen when the character slammed back onto the ground again. Deception's backhand bind had just hurled another player down, and he landed squarely on top of the first one. Before they could even hit the ground, a grenade rolled right up to them. With a deafening roar, the entire screen filled with smoke. The 2 characters were blasted who knows where, they couldn't even tell. All they saw was their health bars plummeting, but the enemy's attack kept coming.
I can't.
Despair had already consumed them both. They had completely given up. Unless some outside force intervened, they felt nothing they did mattered anymore. 30 seconds, a full half minute, and the 2 players were pummeled without any chance to fight back. Then, the water prison skill 100 stream slash had cast finally expired. The player who had been trapped since the start of the fight broke free. The onslaught before him was already terrifying, but abandoning his comrades and running alone, that he simply couldn't do.
Bring it on!
The berserker had been thinking just that, hadn't even raised his greatsword, when suddenly, a muffled thud. He'd been shot, frozen in place. This was the ammunitionist skill, stun shot. As the name suggests, any target hit by it would be locked in a stun state, and since this skill was literally named after the stun effect, the duration it inflicted was nowhere near as brief as the stun added by skills like Dragon Tooth. A hit from this shot would cause a stun lasting a full 2 seconds. For a stun, 2 seconds is a lethally long time. A skill like stun shot can be the turning point of an entire battle. The stun effect can interrupt any attack, and the stun state is the perfect opportunity to counterattack. Every gunner class, whether they specialized in munitions or not, practically had to learn stun bullets. For a time, stun rounds were even considered a cheat code of sorts. A skill held in such high regard was bound to invite intense scrutiny and countermeasures. If stun shot really came and went without a trace, hitting the mark every time, it would basically be a cheat code. If it were even as sharp as a normal shot, it would be borderline cheating. In fact, stun rounds flew far slower than regular bullets, made a much louder noise leaving the barrel, and were larger in size as well. Such an obvious trait was quickly figured out by the players. With everyone on high alert, it was only natural that they'd all be watching for this skill. In high-level professional tournaments, a skill like stun can never be used as a direct attack. It requires concealment and cover. What started as a classic PK opener has now become nothing more than a sneaky setup move. The poor swordsman had clearly let his guard down. They all knew Lord Grimm was an unspecialized who hadn't chosen a class, but not a single one of them had bothered to go through and figure out exactly what skills and tricks he had up his sleeve. And to make matters worse, Yi Shu's shot was perfectly placed, using the chaos of the melee to mask his aim, the sound and muzzle flash swallowed by the fray, and the timing calculated down to the exact moment the water prison spell would dissolve. Even the berserker trapped inside the water prison hadn't bothered to count. He was just waiting for it to fade. He never even considered the possibility of being attacked while inside the water prison. After all, even the caster's own attacks would damage it, shortening its duration. This shot was completely unexpected, perfectly timed, a truly underhanded strike. Even as the bullet flew out, the water prison hadn't vanished yet. But by the time it reached its target, the prison had just dissipated, and the berserker had already made his final, desperate decision. He might have seen the bullet coming, but before he could even process it, it had already pierced into his body. 2 seconds of stun, he couldn't make a single move. All he could do was watch as Lord Grimm used a shadow clone technique, his true body already flashing in front of him. The slaughter had only just begun. About a minute after receiving the report of Lord Grimm's location, Chen Yehui got a second message. The 3-man squad had been wiped out. Neither Chun Yilao nor Tian Nanxing knew about this yet. They were still redirecting their forces toward the last set of coordinates.